Some Republican leaders have condemned the attempted murder of Speaker Pelosi. They should start by cleaning their own house. Welcome to MOMocrats MOMochat, part of the DemCast family of podcasts. I'm Donna Schwartz Mills with Aliza Worthington, and as always, Karoli of crooksandliars.com. And man, don't.
Let's just call it what it was. It was an assassination attempt. It was not just an assault on her husband.
Right.
The guy was holding Paul Pelosi, wanted to hold Paul Pelosi hostage so that she would come home so that he could kill her. That is what happened today in the early wee hours of the morning. And her husband is now undergoing or has undergone brain surgery for the injuries that he suffered. I don't know if he is.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
People see this, read this, hear it, probably.
He'll be out.
We will know more. But let's also call it what it is. I don't care about mental health in this issue. When you look at the cravings on social media, it's pure QAnon MAGA.
It's political violence. It's political violence.
I told someone today who was playing Bleeding Heart and saying, oh, well, he's got mental problems. I just lost my shit. I was like, no, we are not making that excuse for him. I'm sorry. If you're going to say that, then half of Congress has mental problems. So make up your mind, right? This is what they have done.
People with mental problems are not violent for the most part.
Exactly.
People who are mentally ill are usually the victims of violent crime, not the perpetrators. So we got to get that. We have to stop that in its tracks, without it, immediately.
Right.
Okay.
This is political violence. Whoever said
political violence. And so I wanted to ask you, because I haven't seen the latest in the last 2 hours, let's say. But it is was it determined that he was trying to lure her home so that he could kill her? Is that what the plan was? Or so
this is my
or are you surmising that
from right. This is my inference, because it has been reported and confirmed that reporting that he came into the house, where's Nancy? Right. And Paul Pelosi, I guess, had the hammer. This is what I'm putting together from the stories. And he took that hammer away from Paul and then hit him with it.
I thought he entered the house with the hammer.
No, he not according to what I'm reading, but there are conflicting reports, so I could be wrong. But this is kind of just a scenario that I've constructed from that. So he took because it doesn't make sense that both of them had hammers, right?
True. I mean, that was the most recent thing that I said. A lot of the details are really fuzzy right now.
Right. So, but anyway, so he took the hammer, he hit Paul Pelosi with it, and then tried to tie him up, or tried to tie him up first. I'm not sure which way it went, but the point was that he was trying to tie him up so she'd come home to that, right? And then and what was he going to do? Obviously, who's going to kill her? I mean, that's what they wanted to do on January 6th. This is exactly shades of January 6th again.
Yeah,
right. I mean, they wanted to find her, tie her up, and kill her. I mean, I say that, and at the same time, shivers go up and down my spine. She's the third in the succession to the presidency.
Yeah, I would like to know what other things he had on him, how he broke into the house, at what point the police arrived. Everything is so, the details, we do not have a clear picture of what happened. All we know is that he was looking for Nancy Pelosi. He bludgeoned Paul Pelosi with a hammer, and they got him. They arrested him, and Paul Pelosi had or is still having brain surgery.
Right.
The exact sequence of it, I don't know. I would like to know what, I'm assuming if he was armed with a gun, we would have heard by now. Have you heard anything about that?
I haven't heard anything, and I don't think he was. I don't think
I don't know what he was, but we do know that he was, based on CNN's investigation. They went through his socials, and he was, full out MAGA QAnon. And
COVID conspiracies, the whole
COVID
9 yards,
conspiracy,
all of it.
all of it, the whole thing. So, any other details, I feel like I'm not relying on, but it doesn't matter.
It doesn't. It's.
It doesn't matter.
I would like to know how he got into their house. I mean, I feel like there was
brain surgery.
Right. I mean, there's obviously a security failure somewhere. I don't know where. She's the Speaker of the House. There should have been, and maybe her security detail was with her, and there was nothing at her house. Right. Who knows?
Security detail was with her in D.C. If she had been in the house, there would have been a security detail in the house.
Yeah.
But they are so wealthy, you would figure that they would have all kinds of alarm systems.
Right.
And the report that I heard was where they said that he came with the hammer and used the hammer to go into a back window, to smash a back window, and that's how he entered. And but even so, you would expect that they have some kind. I mean, even my crappy little suburban house has an alarm system,
right? And it would immediately notify the police, right?
Right. Right.
And this is not a paid ad, but we have installed a Simply Safe system in our house. Yeah. And if somebody broke a window in our house, our little window shatter glass detector would go off. Right. And trust me, I have forgotten a couple times that the alarm was on, and holy moly. I mean, they're called within 5 seconds.
Right.
They're calling.
Right.
So, I'm just saying that wasn't an ad, but if you wanted to pay us for an ad, Simply Safe, we could do that. We could talk about that.
Yeah, that'd be great. I don't have an alarm system. I'll take one.
I don't know. I don't know.
Whoops, I shouldn't have advertised that. Can we edit that part out?
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know what they, had and didn't have, or how this guy got in or whatever. But the bottom line is that this is escalating. All the political violence is escalating, and the rhetoric is escalating, and it's mostly escalating, at least to where I'm sitting, on the right. And I mean, it's not just like online, and it's not just in Twitter or whatever. It's prevalent on Fox News. And, they're the mildest of the three that are broadcasting. And that's before we get to the online broadcasters.
Paul Pelosi for it. They want to arrest Paul Pelosi. They want to investigate him for getting attacked.
Caitlyn Jenner got up there blaming the victim.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Caitlyn Jenner is such a dork. I mean, it's hard for me to take her seriously on any level. I'm sorry.
I mean, she ran for governor, but then they platform her and give her, and amplify what she says, and it's the same.
Well, they're bashing trans people.
They're bashing trans people. So I mean, they're using her as a, it's tokenism. It's textbook tokenism.
Well, it's the same. It's the same thing they do with other minorities. There are approved members of the group. And if they're liberal members of the group, they're unapproved.
Right.
Right. And so I think it was Aaron Rupar's newsletter today where they talk about how the right is now deciding who are real Jews and who are not.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's just abhorrent. I don't even know how to.
And Mastriano looks at Josh Shapiro and says he's a secular Jew. He doesn't count. It's not anti-Semitism to say nasty things about him.
He's a bad Jew.
He's a bad Jew because he's not Orthodox. He doesn't wear a kippah.
But isn't it also? I mean, when they say, what they're really saying is he's a bad Jew because he's not a Republican.
Yeah.
I mean, they can use all the, he's not, he doesn't practice that kind of Judaism or whatever, all those things. They can say all those things, but really what they're saying is that if you're a liberal, you're a bad Jew.
Yeah.
And that to me is just antithetical. I mean, I don't know what to say. I would sooner.
They're condemning.
He was a liberal Jew. Sorry.
They're condemning 70%
telling.
Well, and I'm shocked that 30% of you are aligned with them, but I wouldn't call them bad Jews. Huh?
What did we think? It's a Shonda.
Yeah.
I know what that is.
Of course you know what that is.
Where
know
would
everything, but
the
I know what
English
that is.
language be without Yiddish?
The
Honest to
English
God.
language would be so boring without Yiddish. Yiddish makes everything better. Period.
It's 100% true. I totally agree with you. I mean, there's just like, is there another word that really expresses what the word schmuck, for
No.
example?
Exactly.
No, schmuck, butts.
Mhm.
It's just
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
schlep.
Right. Schlep. That's a,
Do you know what? Do you know what my son learned in his God? I forget which class he's taking. He's taking a number of interrelated classes, but one of them, I think it might be an archaeology class on Eastern Europe and Russia, and he learned that he taught me something called schlep theory.
Schlep theory.
Schlep theory.
Have you heard of this, Donna?
I have not heard of schlep theory. Tell me
That the word schlep existed like in like way like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago when like it has to do with the domestication of horses. And something about them not being, you should Google it, something about them not wanting to when horses died, not like a horse was a status symbol of a very wealthy family, and when and you were buried with your animals when you died, and something about not wanting to drag your dead horse to your grave or something. I don't know what it was. I gotta look it up now because I'm sure I'm butchering it, but it has to do with ancient Eastern Russian archaeology. There's something called schlep theory.
I just Googled it and I didn't get it on my first page.
Yeah, I can't find it.
I'll trust you on that.
Yeah.
We should put that in the blurb just so people will watch.
That's what
I know. I'm going to find it. I'm going to find it.
But back to what happened to Paul Pelosi. I mean, was anyone else getting Gretchen Witmer flashbacks?
Oh
yes.
My God, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, those guys that did that just got found guilty on
Thank
those
goodness.
charges.
Three of them.
Goodness.
Three of them did.
First trial didn't. They were all let go in the first trial.
Yeah, I think those were the minor.
Two of them were let go this time too. Right?
I mean, I don't know. I have to go look again. But the main players, the ones that hatched the scheme, the ones that carried it out, they got convicted. And it's about damn time. So, I'll take what I can get. But yes, there were flashes of Gretchen Witmer. I mean, I'm still nervous about Biden's Secret Service detail and although Kamala Harris's, yeah, exactly. And I mean, Biden's got that nice big German Shepherd, that he can at the White House. But what does she have?
Major back.
Major needs to come back. Major has been wrong.
Major has been wronged.
Yeah,
Major has been wronged.
Totally wronged. Yeah.
And I'm not making a joke of it.
I know you're not.
No, he knew who to bite.
Yeah.
Totally. So anyway, I mean, and we don't even really know the whole story yet, but whatever it is, I mean, the fact that the right is trying so hard right now to blame the victim tells me that they know they've got to really spin the counter narrative right now, because it looks bad. Because honestly, think about it, if it went the other way, oh my God, I mean, the wailing and gnashing of teeth would not stop for months. We would hear about it, and for years.
Yeah.
Even
Antifa.
I don't
violent Antifa.
Right.
Well,
exactly, because anti-fascists are bad if you're Republican. I'm just saying.
I was I was talking to the one person who, I mean, I do keep myself in a silo. I'm going to admit that. Nobody in my family is a Republican, and I'm not friends with anybody who's a Republican. I'm just not. I can't. I can't. I used to be.
Yeah, because one used to be able to have a friendship
Right.
and they weren't crazy.
Oh, they weren't crazy,
In
and
democracy,
I have to say that I was a little less enlightened about what even polite republicanism really
Mhm.
still represented. But I was just like I was thinking about like somebody brought up. I said I was talking to a friend of mine who was still questioning that it might have been an assassination attempt.
Hmm.
And I'm thinking, and I said, what were they there to do?
Yeah.
What were they there to do? Just why did they have a hammer? What were they going to do with the hammer? Just like maim them a little? Just, like crush their bones a little? What were they there to do?
Skulls, so
This wasn't, they wanted to kill them or her, Nancy,
yes.
and I mean, this was early on before we knew what the deal, that he, had said, where's Nancy, and that he had tried to tie up Paul, and, and, and I said, what if this happened to like Lee Zeldin or somebody, and they, and then.
Well, Lee Zeldin had a fit when somebody had shot an unrelated shooting that was close to his house.
Right. And this person brought that up. And I was like, I didn't even know about the drive-by shooting in front of their house. And I went and I looked, and let's see if this is the RNC who won't stop calling me. I don't know why the RNC keeps calling me. Anyway, they
put them on the air.
if they call again, I'm going to do it. So they're like, well, the police said it didn't have anything to do with it, but you never know. And I'm like, you can't sometimes be behind the police, believe the police, and then other times when it doesn't serve your purpose, decide that the police aren't trustworthy. The police determined this was not a related shooting.
Right.
And then when the guy got up on stage and, tried to attack Lee Zeldin, right? Like there was this incident at a stump speech, or he was at some fair or something. He was on stage outdoors over the summer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The guy was the guy who got arrested for, because he was the guy. It's not like they, he was the guy who jumped on stage and was, had like some pointy things coming out of his, I don't know if it was on his keychain or something. And he was he admitted he was drunk and he had no idea who Lee Zeldin was. He was like, I didn't know he was. I just thought he was being disrespectful to veterans. And he had been drinking, and he said so. He goes, I'd been drinking like whiskey. I've been drinking whiskey all day. Like I didn't know who this guy was. I thought he was a veteran himself, and I thought he was disrespecting veterans. And he got up, and Lee Zeldin never ended up in the hospital. Lee Zeldin had like a minor scratch. The guy was charged with something. It was like, you can't compare it.
No. But the thing is
but
that
they were howling, and he was howling about it, like the Lee Zeldin thing. And I mean, like when I remember when Lee Zeldin was attacked, and Lee Zeldin turned around and was like all, going crazy about the political violence, Well, and he's going to use this drive-by shooting or, thing that happened. When was that, last week or a couple weeks ago?
It was a couple of months ago, I think.
It was over the summer.
Or early fall.
Say, crime is out of control. Crime's out of control, and
blah blah blah.
Well, we know that they are, crime is out of control because this is the talking point they decided to deploy right before the midterms, and
right.
And the mainstream media picked up on it.
Right.
But to get back to the political violence, yes. There have been a couple of instances of political violence on the left. There was the guy that shot up the softball game and sent Steve Scalise to the hospital. And there was the guy that decided he was going to go after, was it Alito? Was it Kavanaugh? The guy from California who went to DC and he was going to kill one of the
I think it
Supreme
was
Court
Kavanaugh.
justices,
Yeah, I
and he
think it
was
was
in
Kavanaugh.
front of Kavanaugh's house, you
Right.
know? And they use that to frame a both sides. It's both sides. But the thing is, I can only name two on our side. We're not the ones threatening people, talking violence, having a violent insurrection. And, as we talked about last week, intimidating people at dropboxes and taking
And by
photos.
the way,
And
people who
getting
are
their license plates.
peacefully protesting outside speaking of Kavanaugh, people who are peacefully protesting outside the Supreme Court justices' residences were being, the right wing had, they lost their freaking minds over
They
it.
did. They did.
About them exercising their First Amendment right to protest. And
Kavanaugh
they wanted all the
eating his
security for
chocolate mousse at Morton's.
right. I know
Right.
he can't dine at, Alito can't dine at a restaurant anymore. Kavanaugh can't dine peacefully at a restaurant. That's not new. The protesters are outside, and he shouldn't be able to dine peacefully. It's not a constitutional right.
Totally
That's
agree.
me.
But whatever, and they lost their minds over these peaceful protests, and they insisted on all the security. And guess what? Democrats agreed with them, which pissed me off. But Democrats were like, okay, let's give them protection.
Yeah.
They're a special strata of our judicial system. Let's give them protection as well. Meanwhile, what are the Republicans saying about Paul Pelosi? Did anybody?
They want him investigated.
They want
That's
him investigated.
The new counterspin. They want to investigate.
They want Paul Pelosi investigated for getting attacked.
See, I did see Mitch McConnell say this was horrible and shouldn't happen. And of course, even Marsha Blackburn said that.
Oh, really? Because I saw some right-wing Republicans. I saw some Republicans, politicians. I'm not talking about media personalities, politicians saying some really shitty things about it.
Yeah, this is afterwards. In the early morning hours when the news came, they were being human beings. But I think too many of us were pushing back, saying, why don't you tone down your fucking rhetoric? Sorry, I got it first this time.
Yay!
You did.
I said it to Marsha Blackburn. I said it to Mitch McConnell. I said it to Meghan McCain. Tell your husband to stop publishing this crap.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and that's the thing. Then there's an escalation right now that is not just what they're publishing or what they're talking about on the news. There's people with guns intimidating people at early voting locations. There's, and these guys are in full body armor with their guns and and the thing is,
and masked. It's okay to mask.
Right.
It's okay to mask if you're trying to, commit a felony by intimidating voters. They'll mask for that.
They won't do it to help others, but
yeah, exactly. So I mean, you have all this voter intimidation going on all over the place. I mean, honestly, when I think I mentioned this last week, that when Tim and I dropped off our ballots at the drop box, I was going to put them in, and I was like, oh no, you have to take your own, because I'm sure that DeFellon's got people out there.
Yeah.
So
you'll end up in a Dinesh D'Souza documentary as a mule.
Yeah, really. Because where does he live? Where does DeFellon live?
Oh, he's in Washington D.C. or New York or something. He's on the East Coast, but I'm sure he's got
his minions. He's got people.
All these stupid people that watch this stupid movie that's been debunked a zillion different ways from nowhere, and they're sure that they are positive that that this is happening, and it's happening on a local basis too. So in our little city of, it's a little city. We're surrounded by farmland on three sides. I mean, and everything. And, we're just a little there. Somebody bought great big giant posters. I mean, like 12 feet by 4 feet against our city council person, saying she wanted to defund the police. Right. And everything. I mean, they tried to recall her already on this and failed that. So, and of course, nobody is, admitting who paid for it or anything like that, but
Dark
the
money.
her opponent is anti-wokeness and pro-freedom. So you go figure that one out, right?
Yeah, I wonder. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that, somebody or his allies are behind it. But so even on a local level is my point, is that
Yeah.
that people are escalating, and and the division is so stark, and the rhetoric is so stark, and it's coming from the politicians. That's where it's starting.
It's coming from Steve Bannon.
Well, him too.
His strategy is to take over all the little local things and work their way up. That's the new, that's the strategy now. And it's been taken to heart.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, we're fighting it like crazy here. I mean, next door is a cesspool, of course, but we're fighting it anyway.
Simi Valley?
No, next door meaning the app.
Oh, next door the app. Yes, oh my
I'm
God.
gonna turn on some lights in my room. Hang on, I'm sorry, guys.
Yes,
Because I feel like I look like I'm a vampire.
It's looking very Halloween-like.
I was going to say, you do look a little bit.
My face is so pale. I feel like I should put some makeup on.
Okay, maybe late for that, but yeah, lights are good. We like lights.
Lighting is good.
I didn't realize how like totally dark everything was gonna look.
Well, it's
dark so early now.
Yeah.
I know it's gonna get dark earlier in another couple of weeks too.
Yeah.
Daylight savings forever.
That's somewhat better. Do I look less like a vampire now?
It's much better now.
I just didn't want to look like. Well, I still look pretty white, but oh well.
But now we can see a background. It really was looking like a theme. Like you were doing a theme. This is our last show.
I'm on my vanity.
So there we go.
Okay. As you were, keep talking.
Oh,
I have to do, my husband's on a call downstairs, so I had to. This was, so I had to do this up in my bedroom.
All good. It's all good.
Better.
Oh yeah. To be honest, you guys, I've just been so distracted this week. This is the week that I finally had to turn off the TV and get off of social media and just chill, because the drumbeat of negativity has, it
creates anxiety. I mean, I hear you.
A lot of anxiety.
Yeah.
And the thing is, as I keep saying, I don't want to be in a pure echo chamber where all I hear is we're right, they're wrong, everything's great. I want to know the facts.
Yeah.
But we're in a situation now where I just don't trust the framing, or I find holes in the framing.
Right.
And I am always asking myself, am I the one who's in the bubble? Am I and I think as long as I do that, I'm okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay to do that, but honestly, there's a lot of anxiety inducing. Like you, and this is my job. I'm not supposed to turn off the TV or any of that, but I have. I have done it, and I basically said somebody else has to watch it for a while because I can't, because it's just a constant drumbeat of bullshit is what it is. It's like a bullshit stream. Oh, we have a new poll. They're up, they're down. It's, it's horse race crap, and none of it matters, because the only thing that matters is, are voters getting out and are they voting? That's all that matters at this point.
That matters. And the information that we're getting on the early results is also all over the place. So, I mean, we're not going to know anything until the election actually happens and the votes are actually counted. And we need to just get out there, vote, help our friends and neighbors get out there and vote, and just do everything we can to remind people that our very democracy is on the line.
Right.
But from what I'm getting, which again is not all that granular, I don't know a lot. Like I know a lot on our Crooks and Liars, list, our email list, a lot of the people, much more so than me, have a sense of which polls are crap and which polls are legit and which polls lean this way or that. But I am getting overall a sense that there is a lot of interest in this midterm election.
That's one thing that
I feel I'm trying to take heart in that. And that even the last midterm there was the most interest, historically in the last one, and that we are already on track if vote by mail and the places that have early voting are any indication. Our early voting just started yesterday in Maryland. But, is the indications are this is going to be even higher turnout and more people are exhibiting more interest. So that's a good thing because we know that when we turn out, we win. And we can't be guaranteed, of course, that it's not the Republicans that are turning out. But I just feel like the drumbeat is that democracy is at stake, and the left and the Democrats are the ones that are saying that, because
there's another drumbeat. There's another drumbeat that prices are up. It's inflation. It's Biden's fault, which it isn't. And
I just like to
drumbeat that started back in February.
Right, but that drumbeat is they're beating that drum, and I just like to say for the record that I'm not willing to sacrifice democracy for a small jump in inflation. I mean, I'm just not.
Right.
And so, and if the New York Times is to be believed, both sides think that there's a threat to democracy. It's just a question of who's the threat.
Well, and that's the thing, because the economy grew, and if you looked at the three, I forget what the third one. There was the Washington Post, the New York Times, and maybe it was AP. I can't remember what the three, or Reuters, what the three headlines were side by side. The Washington Post, big jump in, good news for the economy. The Reuters or whatever it was, this is, surprising bounce back for the economy, blah, blah, blah. New York Times was like, how can this the economy is still, despite this good news, despite this news, Biden is still struggling, blah, 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 blah. Such fucking doomsday bullshit.
New York Times pitchbot to such a relevant.
Oh my God. I love that pitchbot thing. I mean, I would love to shake the hand of whoever's behind that.
I love it too, but it's it's Doug who posts over at Balloon Juice.
Yeah.
So
who is it? Doug
Balloon J at Balloon Juice. Yeah. So that's John Cole's site. So yeah. Anyway, he's great, but it feels to me like the New York Times is actually taking the stuff that he does as
I know, he's giving them ideas.
Sending it out. I mean, there's been at least two this week that just made me, well, there was one where I wanted to just throw my phone. And then there was another one where, it was the inflation one, right? You have the headline here is that, and I want to emphasize this for anybody who's gotten to this point in the podcast and still with us, is that the GDP actually went up in the last quarter to 2.6%. The projection was 2.4%. So it actually, after 2 quarters of a decline, it went up, and inflation came down by so GDP up, inflation is down. And the New York Times says in their headline, GDP exceeds expectations, but still not enough to keep the economy from slowing down. I mean, or keep the economy from going into a recession. I just thought, how do you take just absolutely unchallengeable good news and make it something bad? This is how. And I don't know what to do. I mean, that's what
they do. That's exactly what they say.
I know.
Yeah.
They say, how do we take unchallengeably good news and turn it into something bad?
But only if it's Democrats that do it. I mean, this is the part that drives me crazy. It's only when Democrats are in charge that they're doing this. They're not doing this. They didn't do this when Trump was in charge.
Bad news when the Republicans are in charge.
The bar was so low for Trump. Like, oh, he didn't, screw up his State of the Union speech. It didn't say anything, and it was the shortest State of the Union in forever, but he didn't mess it up.
He became presidential.
Oh, God. So, and then you have Fetterman, who does a debate 5 minutes after a stroke.
I was going to say, let's watch Karoli throw her phone now.
No, 5 minutes was a pretty accurate. I mean, it may as well have been 5 minutes given, what's involved in stroke recovery. I mean, this is.
And he does a debate, and I watched it. I didn't see what was so fucking painful for everybody to watch. Maybe because I've had a stroke and I've been there and done that, but I thought he did a really good job. I didn't think he did a bad job, and I didn't think Oz did a great job. But I mean, here's the thing: when you've had a stroke and you have a bunch of things you have to think about. So you have to think about, for example, keeping your blood pressure down. You can't get too mad about stuff. You have to let it just roll off your back. But you still have to listen, and it's still a high stress environment. And then you have to find the words and find the word finding. I think I've told you guys this story. I've like maybe 3 months after my stroke, I went to a speech therapist, and she tested me for some stuff. And one of the things that she tested me for was my word recall. So she tested me by saying, you have 1 minute to tell me all the words that begin with F. Well, can you understand that the only word I could think of and couldn't use in that situation?
Why couldn't you use it?
I couldn't. I mean, it's just me. I couldn't do that. So I could not think of any words in that 60-second period that started with F. I'm not brain damaged in the sense that I don't, like, I'm not blocked on all F words. It's just that particular moment, I couldn't recall any. Yeah. And they did it. They tested me again later. A neurologist tested me with the letter M, and I did find words, but the stress of having to come up with it in 60 seconds with those words, I missed all the easy. I missed mom. You know what I mean? It is an issue for stroke.
You probably came up with like metaphysical and manipulate and all these like really good, like impressive words.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, the point though, is that it was that pressure of having to come up with that word. So in that situation with Fetterman, it didn't matter how.
That was 3 months after your stroke?
That was 3 months after. And to this day, right, this is 5 months after. And by the way, to this day, if you said, name all the words starting with a letter, the same thing would happen. It's just, I'm fine, but you put me under that kind of pressure and that's going to happen.
And let's face it, this was not a great format.
No, it's an awful format.
It was not good.
The format I didn't want.
So limited in the time they gave for his answers.
30 seconds.
And, you know, they did give the concession where he could have the closed captioning, but they didn't give him any time concessions.
Right.
And
to read it.
Yeah.
And the thing is that if this is some kind of test for the Senate, there's nothing in this debate that would ever apply in the Senate. The Senate is a deliberative body. They talk a lot. They have 30 hours of debate before they vote to close debate. You know what I'm saying? It's not like there's any situation where they have staff.
They have staff who read things for them and summarize them. They have
So, I mean, this is no indicator of what you would expect, from a senator. And I agree with you, Donna. The format was destined to make him fail. And it was, and what it did is it gave Oz a lot of chance for cheap shots.
Oz did cheap shots. Oz, of course, is very comfortable in front of the camera. Fetterman, everyone says, never was good at debates.
Well, no, he's always been shy. His wife said he's the introvert of the family. She's the extrovert.
I believe that. I've seen her in action,
Right.
But it did give us the chance of hearing Oz say that the decision to what to do with your body is between a woman, her doctor, and the local politicians. So,
right. And that's the soundbite from that thing.
That was the soundbite.
That was it. I mean, there's no other soundbite.
Right there.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Oz, for telling us what we already knew. Right. And you think about it, Like
that should just be every Republican commercial, every Democrat's commercial for the rest of the cycle.
I totally
Should
agree.
just be that.
And you think about like local politicians, what, my city councilman? I mean, what is he talking about even with that? Like, where did that come from? I don't even understand. I think it was supposed to be like state government or something. It's, but whatever it was, it just, what a wonderful soundbite. Thank you for that, Dr. Oz. That should
really
be on loop basically for the rest of the
everywhere, every Democrat. And the same thing with, oh my God, who just came out and who just came out and said that gay marriage should be illegal if
there's
God,
so
what was
Gozar? No, it wasn't him.
it wasn't Gozar. It was
another Congress critter.
Yeah, no, I know. It was
but he's not running for Congress, is he? I feel like he's running for
state
I feel like he's
offices.
Is he running for governor?
It was somebody I hadn't heard of, and so I promptly forgot him.
Yeah,
I know Crooks and Liars did a thing on him. But anyway,
I'm not finding it, but
yeah, like that. I think marriage should be between a man and a woman, and if the Supreme Court overturns it, I'm going to support my state's law that says that that bans, because they, states have.
Oh, it's some Midwestern dude. Yeah. It was the Indiana senator.
Driving me nuts. Hold on.
I'm thinking it's the Indiana senator.
It sounds right.
But anyway, yeah. I mean, the other thing, like this is even something that's driving us all at Crooks and Liars crazy, is how much Christian nationalism there is going on right now.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, it's just out of control, and it is fascist.
Yeah,
it really is. It's yeah. I mean, it's frightening to me, and I'm not a target. You know what I mean? I mean, it's frightening to me because
they'll eventually get to you, because you're not the right kind of Christian.
Well, actually, it's frightening to me because of you guys. I mean, I'm going to be like, no, that's not okay.
It was chilling to see the Nazis at the 405 overpass, that picture.
Yes.
It was Governor, sorry, let me interject. It was the governor debate, and it was Republican Governor Henry McMaster for South Carolina.
South Carolina. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well,
yeah, he believes gay marriage should be banned. But sorry, yeah, let's go back to that.
Going back to the overpass.
Anti-Semitism on the overpass.
Also on Sunday, the residents of Brentwood and Beverly Hills got one of those little, packets of anti-Semitism with the names of all the executives at Disney who are Jewish. And
sorry, just wait.
Well, it looks that ridiculous.
So are you listening to Rachel Maddow's podcast, Ultra?
I have heard the first 3 episodes. I haven't heard episode 4 yet. And the parallels, the way history rhymes is just, I see why.
Don't they know that Walt Disney was like a Nazi sympathizer? Like, do they know how many Nazis he hired?
Well, here's the thing about this podcast is you realize that it's exact. I mean, there's so many parallels, like Donna says, but one of the ones that keeps coming back to me is, everybody thinks California is so liberal, blah, blah, blah. Well, I have news for you. We weren't, and we aren't. We have Nazis here that hang Nazi things over the 405. Yeah. And, a lot of them, by the way, if Katie Porter wins, they'll live in Katie Porter's district because the beach is a real hotbed of Nazism.
Yeah.
But I mean, she talks about in the podcast how basically anti-fascists infiltrated these Nazi organizations and everything. And believe me, they were planning things on a scale that was frightening.
Yeah. Incredible. Yeah. We're not going to tell you any of the spoilers about that.
Are you talking about back in the 30s, or are you talking about now?
In the early 40s.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm saying, when you hear that and then you see Nazis hanging things over the freeway in California, and you know that they're active in all over the state.
Yep.
And what they did back then, how do we know they're not plotting the same kind of high scale activities now? Right? I mean,
what we know about the Gretchen Witmer kidnapping, they are planning this stuff now.
on small, incredibly poorly executed scales.
But
You
they
know,
have
and
access
I'm
to
not
evidence that will not
diminishing
convince
it.
that
I'm not diminishing it. I'm just saying I'm not diminishing how scary it is, but thank God, not yet. They don't have their Hitler.
Right.
They
That's
they
true. They
they
don't. And it
don't
was Hitler
have.
was definitely fueling a lot of what was going on in
I mean,
California and across the country at that
You don't
time.
think Trump's
I'm
their
sorry,
Hitler?
Trump is no Hitler.
No, he's not.
Okay, Trump
DeSantis?
isn't smart enough. Trump
Carrie
isn't,
Lake?
huh?
Carrie Lake?
I don't know how
Actually,
smart he is. Bannon, if
yeah, Steve
Bannon is capable.
Yeah.
But I mean, he doesn't. What I'm saying is there's nobody in the position of power that had yet, and I'm not saying it can't happen here.
It could happen.
It has happened here. Slavery happened here for hundreds of years.
Hitler got his ideas from
Yeah,
we
we had citizens who inspired Hitler.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it can't and hasn't in some form happened here, but at this moment, there is I feel like the history that is, at least many of us are at least have history and know history. Not enough. I know that half the kids today don't even know the Holocaust happened or believe that it happened to Jews or whatever. But enough of us do. And, we have to, this is part of what makes voting so important, is that we cannot let people like Steve Bannon, who have the brains and the desire, get into positions of political power where they have access to the ability to jail people and put, Steve Bannon better go to jail himself. We talked last week about how infuriating it is that he's just at home doing his thing.
still
But the truth is that these idiots, the guy who breaks into Nancy Pelosi's house with a hammer and some twine. I mean, I'm not I don't fear that guy is going to be like on a scale with Hitler.
I don't think that he was even organized. Yeah. That's one of the things.
Exactly. I don't feel like there's this big organizational thing happening yet. Although the thing with Witmer was pretty fucking organized.
That was organized.
I think if you should read the person to read on a lot of this stuff is Dave Nywert, because he's been studying militias for a long time over at Daily Kos, and he knows these guys backwards and forwards, and that's where the organization is going to come from. It's going to be these militias, the anti-government militias.
So they're getting, the Oath Keeper dude, Stuart Rhodes, and the Proud Boys guy, Enrico Tarria, and they're being. This is why these prosecutions have to happen. We have to cut off the heads of these organizations and keep them from becoming hydras. If we, and again, why it's so important that we vote so that we can put, judges that will, that Democrats and liberal minded and justice minded, constitutionally minded people will be appointed to the bench so that they can hand down sentences and see the danger in these people.
Right. And stop the Trump judges from messing up everything, which on all levels they've been doing.
That's true. They have. But I have to speak for one judge that is my hero, and that is Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. And I've been listening to all the Supreme Court arguments as audio as it comes out, and only because she just supremecourt.gov. Okay. You can get them all there. So anyway, she always has some really interesting facet to whatever's going on. Like, and some of these cases are like stuff that you think, you'd rather watch paint dry than, but she brings a level of inquiry to it, I guess, for lack of a better word, that is really interesting and fun to listen to. And, anyway, I just want to put in, she's great. And
She's the
she
reason
forces
we
you to
need
think.
diversity on the bench,
Right.
because that perspective, we just have never had that perspective before.
Well, I forget what they're hearing on Monday. I think they're hearing a case about, are they hearing an affirmative action case on Monday? I feel like
It could be. I don't
enough
know.
diversity.
But I would just definitely want to hear that one.
Yeah.
But what can we go back to the anti-Semitism for a minute? Because the one thing we haven't talked about is Kanye West and the fact that he was booted off Twitter last week for being really anti-Semitic. He's lost his, his endorsement contracts. Huh? Say what?
He's back on Twitter today.
He's back.
Elon gave him his account back.
Yeah. I know, that's what I wanted to say. But yeah, it's so apparently Elon Musk is good with anti-Semitism. That's nice to know.
We knew that.
I mean, so yeah, Twitter. Elon Musk now owns Twitter. He owns the fire hose to Twitter, which means that he owns everything that you put in there. And, I mean, obviously when there's billions of messages, it's not like he's going to look at your message, but that doesn't mean he's not selling your data. I'm just saying. Right. And we don't know to whom.
It's a conundrum. I don't want to leave, but I feel like I don't really trust any of the socials with my data anyhow. I don't trust my bank. Like, I don't know. I just feel like.
Well, here's how I feel about it.
Has left the barn,
the data horse has left the building. And here's the thing is that, I mean, the thing I always liked about Twitter is the social aspect to it, the interactive aspect to it, not just feeding shit in, but actually having conversations. That's been harder to do over the last few years. It's been a very negative place, a hard place. And I realized that it actually has always been kind of negative. Yeah. And back in the early days in 2008, what we were doing with a group of us, it was fun, but also a group of us were using an external social network that was smaller and just sending whatever we wanted over to Twitter. We weren't interacting with Twitter. We were interacting with now Twitter cut off that bridge. And so we had to go over to Twitter at that point. But
what was the thing you were using? I wasn't on Twitter at that point.
No, I wasn't on the bridge. I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah. It was just a little, it's actually become like a corporate thing for Canadians now, but it was just a little social network that was that we could use. And then we could there was a little bridge that you could turn on that would basically post whatever you posted over onto Twitter. So even your replies, right? So that if people were interested in what you say, they'd come over and talk to us over there. So it worked out because I didn't have to actually pay attention to the noise on Twitter.
Yeah,
I could just,
out.
And everything. But they forced us over onto Twitter, and then it was still fun. It was still fun for a while, and especially right after Obama got elected, and still fun. Less fun, but still useful during the whole Obamacare, the debate and everything like that. But over the years and with the algorithm changes that they've put in and everything, it's just not as fun. It hasn't been for a while.
The algorithm changes where they're showing you stuff from people you don't follow, but that people you follow. And if you follow a lot of journalists, you're going to see a lot of right-wing crap you don't want to see.
Exactly.
Because the journalists have to follow them.
Right.
And so this stuff keeps popping up, and it's like, I don't want to see this. But I mean, like when I started on Twitter, like 2007, it was just fun.
Mm-hmm.
Last night,
2007 was super fun. That was back in the days when it was all text-based. There wasn't even a website back then.
Right.
It was all text messages. So,
but Elon took over, and people are urging us to liberals, stay here. You know, you have to stay here and fight at least until after the midterms, you know. And it's
Well,
like,
I
that
agree
makes
with that.
sense. That makes sense. But I also went back to Counter Social that we tried
did I.
earlier. And you know what? Counter Social is like Twitter in 2007. It's small.
It is.
You know, you've got the political stuff, but you've got a lot more of the people just bullshitting,
Yeah.
just having a good time with each other in
Yeah,
conversations. It's like, yes,
But you
that's
can't get on it now, I think,
love.
right? Now you have to be on a waiting list or something.
No,
No, that's
Blue Sky.
Jack Dorsey's Blue Sky.
Yeah.
Counter Social you can sign up for. Yeah.
As we also said last week, you're
Yeah.
going to have all these different
These
new
splintering.
platforms
Yeah.
start up, and that's
Yeah,
good.
I mean, I signed up on Mastodon a while back when this was initially, when he initially talked about about taking over Twitter.
Yeah, that's
Right.
when I joined.
And Mastodon seemed fun, but I didn't really, when the deal seemed to be falling apart, I just stopped, playing around over there. And but all right, Counter Social will be something to look at.
Yeah.
So it's worth looking at. I think that we are definitely headed for splintering of social networks generally. And back in 2008, I was on a podcast with Steve Gilmore and some tech people, Robert Scoble, some other people. And at that point, Steve Gilmore, who's kind of a futurist, basically said, Twitter is the pipeline through which the data moves and then should land in other places. And that never really came to pass. But that's kind of what's going to happen now, I think.
Right.
So people just aren't going to interact, or at least if they are, it's not people like us who will interact in other places and just pretty much use that as an input device, through which data passes. So we'll see, but that's where I think it's headed. So isn't that good news? I mean, it's just what it is. I think things evolve.
I was just going to say things like grow and change and become, shittier or better based on, the people in charge of it. And
but you guys, we don't need to change leadership in the Senate and the House.
No, I don't think we're going
more Democrats in every office, because we need to fight the kind of change that Steve Bannon and
I agree.
his cohorts are trying to inflict on us.
Agree.
Yep.
So couldn't agree more.
I totally agree.
Our own little echo chamber right here.
Right. I know. I mean, I think right now we're going to be an echo chamber. We have, not much time left till the midterms. And now is really the get out the vote push for us. I mean, that's what we have to be doing is just, and so like anybody that asks me for money that is for getting out the vote, I've been giving to him. I also made a donation directly to John Fetterman through his website.
He raised $2 million in the first 24 hours after that debate.
I don't think that debate was so bad for him,
I don't think it was either. And I think that, I'm looking forward to having him in the Senate. That's what I want to say.
Yes.
But if you have an opportunity to help with phone calls into Georgia, now would be the time to do that. Yeah. Because there is some concern about the turnout in Georgia.
Freaking Herschel Walker.
Yeah, I know. I can't. The
thing is, abortion.
I guess Blake Masters has narrowed it to the fact that Mark Kelly now is.
And again, I think that's a turnout issue. Again, I mean, from what I've heard from the people that have inside information, they're concerned about the early voting turnout in Arizona. And if you look at like the reports that you're seeing, you're not seeing like the same kind of numbers that you're seeing, say, in Georgia, or not in Georgia, in Nevada.
Guns and the armor.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, right? Yeah. That is actually working. So we have to work to get out the vote however we need to get out the vote in what we can do in those states. That's all I'm saying. So if you're in a position in those states where you can do that. Please do it, and do it for your representatives and do it for your senators that are Democrats.
There you
Make
go.
it happen.
And that's our show for the day. We will be off next week, so join us in 2 weeks post-election at MOMocrats.buzzsprout.com, our YouTube channel, or find us on your favorite podcast service such as iTunes, Google, and Amazon Music, and be sure to check our Facebook page for updates. I'm Donna Schwartz Mills, along with Aliza and Karoli, saying goodbye for the MOMocrats. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
MOMocrats MOMochat's part of the DemCast family of podcasts.